Does adding Grief and Reanimate really make any deck legacy playable? I mean, we're gonna find out, right? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by both Moxfield.com and Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. is going to be giving a $50 gift card to one person who leaves a comment down below. Today specifically, I'm going to ask, tell me what you're most excited about from the upcoming Lord of the Rings set. I'm really looking forward to doing some brewing myself, and if you end up pre-ordering some cards, please consider using promo code ThrabenU to get 5% off your order and support my content. So today we are going to be playing with a Rakdos Death Shadow Scam deck list. And let's talk exactly about what that term scam means, because it's honestly a stupid term. I am all about descriptive deck names that actually show what the deck is, and scam doesn't really work that way. With elementals like Grief that have an enter the battlefield trigger and you can evoke them, the idea of the scam deck list is that you use something, and in younger formats it's often something like Undying Evil, but in older formats we can use the more powerful Reanimate to bring them back. And the name originates from the idea that the deck was bad and it was a scam for you to play it. Totally makes sense, right? You would just know that at first guess. Yeah. So our plan for today involves using this scam engine with Grief to make the way for a large Death Shadow to go and dominate the board quickly, often killing in 2 or 3 shots. It's really hard to build a deck around a single creature though, so we're going to need a supporting cast. Scourge of the Skyclaves acts as almost another Death Shadow. It's better in some ways, worse in some other ways. And if our deck is going to be built around creatures like this one, we're going to need ways to deal damage to ourselves. And while Legacy is usually a true dual land format, we're going to be playing 4 Blood Crypts in today's deck, believe it or not. Today's deck also features the worst creature ever printed, Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. This card is a trap, and you feel like it should do things. It looks a lot like Uro, has a lot of the same general keywords and stats, but oh man, in practice, this card has just done absolutely nothing for me, and I look forward to complaining about this card today in this league. The gap in power level between Kroxa and Uro is so huge by legacy standards, even though Kroxa is perfectly reasonable and maybe even a good card in other formats. Alright, with that obligatory Kroxa hate out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at today's full deck list here of Rakdos Shadow Scam. So of the things that we haven't mentioned yet, we do have some additional ways to go and reduce our life total, like Snuff Out and Night's Whisper. Snuff Out is amazing as a tempo play in Legacy, and this card has just picked up more and more as the format has gotten faster with the injections of things like the initiative that really just require you to move quickly in games. Matt's deck list here is pretty solid. I have a couple of things that I'm worried about. Number one is the red count for Fury. It's real low. I didn't run the numbers on it, but just looking at this, like, I know that is going to be a bit of a problem. So in the sideboard, I've actually opted to play 2 more copies of Fury and another Chain Lightning, just so that in these fair matchups, I am going to have the ability to board up on red cards so that I can make Fury matter more. I thought about just playing an early game sweeper, something like a Pyroclasm effect in this deck, but the fact that it would just get rid of my griefs, I thought was going to be a bit too much, because Grief, Reanimate, Grief is such a strong line that I don't want to eliminate that when I'm playing against fair decks. One other thing that gives me some slight concern is Street Wraith. I'm not saying this is a bad card here, but Street Wraith does something really weird to your mulligan decisions, in that you don't know what this card is. So this is like Schrodinger's land. If you are light on lands and you have a Street Wraith, you might have another one. You know, say you open a 1-lander, you have 19 more lands in your deck. There's a good chance your card off Street Wraith is a land. but there's also a good chance that it's not. In fact, there's a better chance that it's not. So, especially when you have multiple street rates in your opener, things can be really weird in terms of evaluating what your deck is capable of doing. As far as the remainder of the sideboard goes, I've gone with a highly targeted sideboard. This is mostly what Matt originally submitted. We've got ley lines for graveyard matchups, we have meltdown for artifact matchups, and then we have some copies of Turok, just so that in the white control matchups, your band controls, those sorts of things, that we have an extra creature that can just stick around and be hard to remove, so that our opponent can't just source a plowshares and prismatic ending us into oblivion. With that being said, let's see if this deck is a scam or whether this is the real deal. Let's battle. Alright, we have a keepable hand here, although this is definitely a, don't wasteland me bro hand, where I am in trouble if my opponent opens on a wasteland. I still think I need to shock because the plan is definitely Death Shadow here. Yeah, so we take Abrupt Decay from this hand, and we'll just snuff out Elvish Reclaimer. We're gonna have... do I Chain Lightning it? That's actually interesting. I'd probably just snuff it out to lower my life total. This mountain's super awkward right here. Okay, my opponent disconnected, but is back now. And I expect they're going to just play out that Elvish Reclaimer. Yes. So, coming in hot here. We're going to go ahead and Blood Crypt, shock again. Now I have access to black this turn. Oh, nice. We did hit a card. There was a very good chance that I missed there. Go ahead and snuff out the Elvish Reclaimer. It is turn 2. I am at 6 life. I have a 7/7 in play. Is it good enough? My opponent has no spells in hand currently. Greatness. At any cost. We're going hard. I don't think I need to Chain Lightning myself here. I will accept only hitting my opponent for 9 damage. They are dead to Death Shadow plus Chain Lightning next turn. Hey now. Hey now. Let's talk about this. Yavimaya lets Dark Depths tap for mana. So I am fully dead unless my opponent somehow doesn't realize that. Let's see. Do you know how your deck works? They do. Honestly, that was pretty unlucky. I took every relevant spell from my opponent's hand, and then they top decked Dark Depths for the win. Unfortunate. Am I sideboarding? Might not be sideboarding. To help with Elvish Reclaimer in the early game, I might play 1 Chain Lightning over a Fury. I like most of the other stuff that's here. I might just board the Fury out, though. Just play 1 Turok in its spot so I don't have to worry about the low red count, and most of these red cards are things that I would cast rather than wanting to pitch. This gives me slightly lower elemental density for a turn 1 Reanimate or whatever. Hopefully that's fine. This hand, despite having a reasonable mix of lands and spells, doesn't actually do anything. This hand I keep. I'm debating on pitching Reanimate 2 versus Lightning Bolt. I think I'm just going to pitch Lightning Bolt. Let's go ahead and start with my shock. We'll go ahead and Grief. I think pitching the Reanimate. Oh, Wrenn and Realm Breaker, huh? And this is the thing that will fetch Vampire Hexmage. Yes. The mana cost on that. I think I'm going to go with Crop Rotation first. Reanimate my Grief. Take their battle. And then next turn, I can Thoughtseize them and take the Planeswalker most of the time, unless they draw a land here. If they just slam this on turn 1, I think I'm good enough at just killing this Planeswalker that it's not a problem. Alright, what are you discarding? Urborg's down. Second one, Karakas is down. There's an Elvish Reclaimer, so that's a slight punish for throwing away Chain Lightning, but my opponent doesn't actually have any lands right now. I will go ahead and take their Planeswalker. Grief has Menace, so this is a safe attack in. And I can make a very large Death Shadow pretty quickly. And the damage is actually kind of helping me here. Another Elvish Reclaimer. Yep, this is all fine. We'll grab a couple points of damage in combat here. Lay out a Death Shadow past the turn. I'm probably shocking with Blood Crypt. You have to kind of watch that. Like, these can turn into 3/4s very quickly. Ooh. This is part of the reason why we didn't just shock immediately. Go ahead and go to 8. Since I'm about to take 2 more from this, I think I just fetch a tapped Blood Crypt here. I probably bolt one of these. There's 2 lands in graveyard already. Do I need to risk it and cast Night's Whisper first? I think I don't risk that. I think both of those becoming 3/4s immediately would probably result in me losing the game. And my opponent plays so many lands in their deck. Any land allows them to turn these into 3/4s. This is awkward timing for that draw. Well, I guess I attack first. My opponent goes to 8. I think I need to do this. It puts me dangerously close to dead to Elvish Reclaimer attacks. These Chain Lightnings maybe win me the game. It depends on whether or not my opponent draws something to do with Mox Diamond mana. Because if they leave up the mana, in trouble. Because they can reflect Chain Lightning. If they don't, I have Grief Attack, Chain Lightning, that's 9 damage. So these do something with your Mox Diamonds. Draw card, draw card, draw card, draw card. Draw, 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 draw. And I take 4 and go to 1. I need to play a tapped Blood Crypt. I cast a 12/12. And now I cannot attack due to Dryad Arbor. My opponent will probably draw their card end of turn. Again, I need them to use Sorcery Speed, Mox Diamond mana, so that my Chain Lightnings are live. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, my opponent does not have access to appropriate stuff now. I will just attack with both of these, and then I can just send 9 damage upstairs. Beep, beep. My opponent fetches so they can get another mana source. They'll block Dryad Arbor here. They'll block Vampire Hexmage here. They will tap out. Okay, I guess this accomplishes the same thing. I'll put Dryad Arbor first. Now they rotate for Dark Depths. Yep. They'll sack Vampire Hexmage to Dark Depths. I end up losing a Grief. Lightning Bolt you. Chain Lightning you. And Chain Lightning you again. We do have to go to a game 3 where I try to do this again. On the draw, I can consider some additional copies of Fury to help get Elvish Reclaimers out of the way. They do specifically deal 4 points of damage, which does matter. What can I cut if I want to play the Furies? Is this matchup fast enough that I don't really have time for Night's Whisper on the draw? Kind of feels like it is. I could just play all of these Furies when I am on the draw. That way, Elvish Reclaimer becomes less of a problem, and I just gain the ability to reanimate something that doesn't die to, well, an extra something that doesn't die to, like, Abrupt Decay or whatever. This is probably unexciting, but fine. I think Price of Progress is better than Kroxa. I'm just going to take one last look at the deck and see if I want to do Kroxa just physically as a red card over something like 1 Street Wraith. Just so I have more red cards to pitch. I think I do, but I'm definitely unsure. I think I'm willing to keep this. Not perfect. And we end up in this, like, Schrodinger's Street Wraith situation where I don't know whether or not this is one of the cards that I need to really make this hand pop off. There's 2 mana for a Sylvan Library. Very good against my whole Grief like Thoughtseize plan for this hand. I am going to cycle this, see if we find like a Reanimate or whatever. I do not. This is a red card to pitch to Fury. I'm gonna need to do a decent amount of damage to myself this game here. Just going to go ahead and lead on a Thoughtseize. Oh no, my opponent is going to be 1 Thespian stage away from doing something very powerful, and they get Sylvan Library for a lot of extra looks at things that matter. Like, discard's bad versus Sylvan Library, and my opponent didn't lead on a creature like an Elvish Reclaimer that I can just remove with Chain Lightning or Fury or whatever. My hand's not lining up well here. Alright, do a thing for me, please. That is a Reanimate. That's honestly not that bad. I can go ahead and Blood Crypt, Shock, Reanimate targeting Plague Engineer. Good God, what a blowout. I knew most of my opponent's hand, too. This has 4 toughness specifically, meaning that my Fury looks pretty good. Go ahead and clear the board. I get to drop a Death Shadow. Will be attacking as at least a 6/6. But again, a Vampire Hexmage or a Thespian stage just instantly wins this game for my opponent. Yeah, there it is. Oh? Oh, okay, sure, that's fine. So this is going to go and search up a Vampire Hexmage. That also just gives them a blocker so that I can't randomly 12 them. No way out of this for me. Actually, I guess that's not quite true. It's just real sketch. There is a line that gets me out of this. I will Blood Crypt, Shock, Reanimate target Endurance. Don't need to clear any graveyards here. Now I have a Reach blocker for my opponent's Merit Lodge token. And theoretically 12 damage on board. Fuck, they're playing well. It's like, very obviously they should use Thespian Stage to target Dark Depths so that they end up with multiple bodies instead of just one. But I wanted them to go on the offensive there and like make the attack and let me have a chance at killing them. They did not do that. And they instead can just drag this game on. And I imagine that I am now dead. Go ahead and tap this for mana using Yavamaya's ability. Oh, I'm fully dead. So my opponent makes their Merit Lodge end of turn, gives it pro green. And that's curtains for me. This was already on board with Elvish Reclaimer. They Levy. Okay, so now they're going to use their Vampire Hexmage to get, what is this thing called? Zilortha instead. Yeah. Oh, they missed their onboard kill. This has to be blocked here. Oh, right. That they have a different onboard kill. For each non-human creature you control, you may have it assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So they do have a different kill. Ugh. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. It's just the best place to keep your online deck lists, and it's also a great tool if you're a competitive tournament player. What I'm showcasing here is its compare feature. You can take 2 deck lists, plug in links to both of them, and then see which cards are unique to deck list A, which cards are unique to deck list B, and which cards are shared with both of them. And you can do this both with the main deck and the sideboard. If you are looking to fine-tune a deck list, this is a great way to do that. Schrodinger's lands. 3 Street Wraiths. Surely, one of those 3 cards is a land. Surely. Number 1. Number 2? Okay. Number 3. I don't think I need to fetch and shock on turn 1. Go ahead and reanimate. We've got a 3/4 in play on turn 1, and we are poised to make a very large Death Shadow. Oh shit. We're playing against Oops All Spells. And my opponent has a turn 1. Yeah, Cabal Therapy resolves. I indeed do not have Force of Will. There's a Spirit Guide to go up to a 4th mana. An Undercity Informer. Opponent will sacrifice it to mill their entire library. And unfortunately, they have 4 Narcomoebas. They also have a Bridge from Below, so Snuff Out wouldn't have done anything here. So I am dead. My opponent will reanimate a Thassa's Oracle for their win. So I don't have a lot of good stuff here. I'm going to get Leyline of the Void. That's my big thing that I can do in this matchup. And like, some of this stuff is marginally playable. Gorak might be better than some other things here. Price of Progress is not great. Knight's Whisper is very slow in this matchup. Snuff Out usually is not going to have targets. Fury's not great. Meltdown's not great. Both can occasionally do things. Roxa's too slow. I think I'm playing Fury just as another elemental that I have a chance to reanimate. I can also play Meltdown just as a 1 mana nuke artifact mana that is played out card. I'm really not excited about that. I think I'm going to do it. I think this is going to be an exceptionally bad matchup. I probably don't throw it back, but I'm sure not doing anything fast. This is probably a Lightning Bolt myself hand. Woohoo! My opponent has Hexproof here. So it has absolutely become a Lightning Bolt myself hand. I don't know that I do it on turn 1 though, so that if I draw Fury specifically, I can still evoke that and reanimate it to get a fast clock. I can do 3 to myself, bringing myself to 15. 3 to myself, bringing myself to 12, and then play Death Shadow. Blood Crypt. Lightning Bolt myself to 12. Play a very, very unimpressive Death Shadow. Okay, that's good enough for my opponent to concede. We know Leyline of Sanctity is up now. I think on the draw, I'm going to go ahead and cut this for 1 more red card for Fury. And otherwise submit as is. I believe on the draw, my opening hand just has to contain Leyline of the Void. And it does. Opponent's taking a mulligan. I'm going to just sit here for a second like I'm thinking about my hand. And then I will keep it. See if this Leyline's good enough. Spirit Guides are getting exiled for something. Ooh. My opponent gets to destroy my Leyline before I get to take any game actions. And I am hoping that I can shred the remainder of their hand so that they can't get up to enough mana to do meaningful things here. I'm going to lead on Thoughtseize and hope that this is enough. How do I want to play this? I can take both of these and leave them without a payoff, but risk Dark Ritual and Perfect Draws doing things. Or I can make them draw mana. I think I make them draw another payoff, but I'm really not sure about that. Like, there's 8 payoff cards in the deck, and all the rest of the deck is mana. So I think I attack payoff cards. I'm going to take the lower DMC one this turn, and hope to draw another black card next turn. I was about to say, so I don't have to necessarily pitch Death Shadow, but we just found another Death Shadow. But Grief, pitch a Death Shadow. Rough. At this point, I probably pivot and take the Dark Ritual and try to leave these stranded in hand. But that's very awkward for me. I need to deal another point of damage to myself to go ahead and turn on Death Shadow. There's a land. Fantastic. Now I get to Thoughtseize my opponent. Yeah, I've drawn a lot of payoffs. Throw a Death Shadow into play. It's not a fast clock yet, but hopefully it will become that. They don't have a lot of time. Does Reanimate my opponent's Balustrade Spy kill them? Depends on whether or not they're playing, I think, Memory's Journey. Is that an instant? So just so you understand this scenario, because this is a bit weird. If my opponent currently has Memory's Journey in their deck, for the 1 green mana that they have available, they can flash it back and I won't be able to successfully mill them out. So that's the scenario that I'm currently thinking about. I think I just reanimate my Grief, take their 1 known card, and hit them for 6 so that I don't risk that exact scenario happening. And at this point, my opponent has conceded. Interesting game. All right, we're 1-1 here. Going into round 3, I have a reasonable opening hand. Pretty good against creature-based stuff. Pretty bad versus combo. Please don't be Underground Sea. I will cycle Street Wraith in response. I actively want to lose the life. And I have lost Reanimate. Oh no. This is the 3 removal spell hand versus what is okay. Don't know exactly what that was, but I had to restart the whole client here. I think I am going to just preemptively fetch Blood Crypt it up. If my opponent's Doomsday, I want this Chain Lightning later. But I might just need to hit my opponent now with Chain Lightning so that this becomes a more reasonable threat. Like, this is now a 5/5. And it will become larger than that. Still looking like clear combo lands over there. A Daze gets me really good here. Let's cycle that. I was really hoping to hit something like a Grief there. That's okay. Go be Daze, no Daze. My opponent's actually in a scary position in terms of casting an actual factual Doomsday. Ooh. Ooh, are we show and tell? We show and tell instead. Let's Grief pitch a Snuff out. I'll do this before combat. Just get a look at what's going on over there. Oh, ho, 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 ho. We are Reanimator. So my opponent has not opted to reanimate my Street Wraith. I probably take their Reanimate so that they can't go dipping into my graveyard. That feels like the plan. I will go ahead and bash my opponent for 6. Now this does grow this. This is lethal next turn. I need my opponent not to draw. Careful study. Oh my gosh, I didn't jinx myself. Lucky. Alright, so we are playing against some Tin Fins variant, which is an instant speed reanimator deck list. And someone will yell at me in the YouTube comments down below for not calling it Potato Station Xenos or something like that. We want Leyline of the Void. We want Turok. I probably play Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blasts here, assuming there's some sort of show and tell pivot plan. My own Reanimates are spicy in this matchup. Price of Progress out. Fury's out. Roxa out. Snuff out. Probably Snuff out. If I saw white lands, I might keep Snuff out because something like Monastery Mentor could happen. What could punish me if I board these out? Like Vesuvan Drifter could do that, I guess. Vesuvan Drifter an X4? Yes, Vesuvan Drifter is an X4. So this is something that my opponent could reasonably be playing. I board out my Snuff Outs, that card starts to get me. I think I'm okay with that until I see those. Maybe I can't. We'll board down 1 Chain Lightning effect to round things out here. This is a little awkward, but I think keepable. It's certainly clunky, and a lot of how good this hand is will depend on, what my opponent's, pivot plan looks like. Alright, they are chilling. I am just going to Lightning Bolt my opponent here. I think lightning bolting myself is also in the conversation. But this turns this into a valid draw. Okay, nice. I'm going to grief my opponent. I think pitching Turok. I would rather do this on 2 mana. So if I take Force of Will, my Reanimate always resolves. I believe that is my plan, as lowering my life total matters a lot here. I'll go ahead and reanimate my Grief. My opponent can then Sheoldred's Edict. Go ahead and sacrifice that, but then I also get to snipe another card from their hand. I will go with the Omniscience so that they don't have a blue card for Force of Will. And then if I can lower my life total just a touch, Death Shadow is on the table. But not this turn. The fetch land is so incredibly good. Animate Dead on my Grief dodges my Pyroblast. That is the card I would be taking if I was the opponent here. They agree. I think I do an end of turn Lightning Bolt target myself. I don't know. I can let my opponent hit me with Grief to turn on my Death Shadow. Okay, they're not doing that. Yes, in that case, I will Lightning Bolt target myself so that Death Shadow becomes live. All right, we have a lot of critters. I don't quite have the tools I need to work with them yet. Weird sequencing. Ooh. I am dead. So what my opponent is going to do here is they're going to find a Show and Tell. They're going to cast a Show and Tell. They're going to put in Emrakul. Yeah, my opponent taking my Pyroblast was huge. Yep. I'll put one of these in play, but I don't think I can answer the Emrakul. I can't 16-0 my opponent in one shot. The Emrakul kills me in one attack. Damn. Okay. I think I am comfortable with how I've boarded. I just needed a second land that game to put up an appropriate amount of pressure, or I needed my opponent to not take my Pyroblast. This hand does nothing despite having a reasonable mix of lands and spells. Awkward. I think I do keep it. This, in theory, has a turn 2 Scourge of the Skyclaves. I Lightning Bolt my opponent at end of turn to drop them to 17, and I fetch and shock myself. So, like, I have a clear plan, and I'll take that. Both at 17. 100% of the time I go for the Thoughtseize Reanimate here. Over just playing my threat. Oh, it's so awkward that they have Force of Will. Because if I take Sheoldred, they have really good Reanimate lines. I'm thinking about taking Force of Will versus Show and Tell right now. It is scary to not take Show and Tell. But I think this game goes better for me most of the time if I take Force of Will. But if my opponent spikes a land, they go Show and Tell, Omniscience, Sheoldred. That's tough to beat from 12 life, considering that Sheoldred does have Death Touch. Fuck. Yeah. The Show and Tell happens. I have a 4/4. I think I don't cast Lightning Bolt. Oh, this game is going to get so weird. Yeah, so I lose some life. Animate Deads are so weird. So I think my line is attack and see if my opponent blocks. They do block, in which case I Lightning Bolt target them so that I trade in combat. Now I get the Reanimate. I get to choose one of these, and my opponent gets the other. I think I want to be the one with the Sheoldred, as I can trade a Skyclave for a Skyclave in a minute. I also don't necessarily just want to step all over Death Touchers all day. Alright, I gain some life, which is slightly awkward. Now, I just know that my opponent has another Animate Dead, so I don't want to trade in combat here. I'm just going to play out my creature and call it a turn. fully at the mercy of the top of my opponent's deck for this Omniscience. Okay. So my Skyclave is bigger than their Skyclave. They have to block my Skyclave or they die. So my shouldered attack is, in theory, safe. And with one unknown card, I am okay with this. Alright, yep. The obligatory block is made. I will cast a Turok, and let's see if my opponent draws like an Emrakul or whatever. They're at 3 life. I have multiple lethal threats. I just need to dodge this turn. Goldrid's Edict. I will sacrifice Turok, I believe. You can animate dead one of my creatures, but that's not enough. Ooh. Alright. I have kept a reasonable hand here. I think my opponent tends to play Delver. I think they're a blue player. I really didn't want to draw another land there. I'm like very land heavy with this hand as is. Smells like Delver. Brainstorm's A-okay with me. So one of the important things I'm going to have to keep in mind in this matchup is that I want Death Shadow to be at least a 4/4 before I play it, so that it plays around Lightning Bolt effects. I don't think I fetch yet and expose my lands to Wasteland before I have to. We'll just chill. I have all the removal in the world. I can drop down to 14 life at instant speed. What are we doing? There's a Dragon Rage Channeler. This is fine. Delver is fine. If my opponent has Stifle specifically, I was supposed to fetch while Dragon Rage Channeler was still on the stack, but I did not do that. Let's Blood Crypt. Ask this for some life on the Dragon Rage Channeler. I think I'm comfortable Lightning Bolting the Delver. This doesn't play around a Spell Pierce specifically. I'm more concerned about playing around Daze, which I did. I am not gonna snuff out until my turn. Ooh, buddy. Ooh, buddy. Go ahead and fetch. I will take that last Blood Crypt. I guess I should have seen if Snuff Out resolved, because if my opponent's last 2 cards are exactly Force of Will plus blue card, I potentially die for that decision. I will play a giant Death Shadow. And I am fine with this getting hit by a Daze. It's just a 2/2 right now. Actually, I probably shouldn't have fetch shocked. I should have just shocked to stay at 4 life. I'm dead to a Lightning Bolt. That was a misplay on my end. Yep, realized it a little too late. That's fine. We were also going to have trouble with Murktide Regent that game, though, honestly. Okay, how do I want to play this? Am I a Leyline of the Void gamer for this match? I think the answer is yes. I think Murktide's a problem, and large Dragon Rage channelers don't help either. I think I could kind of pivot into a controlling role. I think I go these out. Do I go Furies out? Or do I keep Furies? I think I go Furies out. I don't really want to pitch my red cards in this matchup. Then I might be going down the Street Wraiths. Not sure if it's okay to do that or not. So I am willing to keep this hand. This is essentially going to be a tempo hand, where I hope that Grief backed by 2 Chain Lightnings and get there. So for that, to reasonably get there, I need to take Lightning Bolt as one of the cards that I take. I think I am okay with just trading with a Wasteland. I reanimate the Grief, and I am going to take the Brazen Borrower with the hope that I can discard or Pyroblast Murktide Regent or whatever before it becomes relevant. This is fine. Yes. We're gonna be paying a lot of life here. I'll lose my Grief, but I can't let the Murktide Regent stay in my opponent's hand. Fully not acceptable here. I do get one more turn to try to draw another discard spell for Lightning Bolt or something. Let's go ahead and Chain Lightning that Delver out of the way. I attack for a Lightning Bolt worth of damage. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to Chain Lightning right now. Given how low my life total is and the fact that my opponent is probably going to pass with mana available, I am going to go ahead and just send this damage at my opponent's face when it is likely to resolve without costing me anything. So the problem with this stage of the game is that I have a decent number of dead-ish draws, like the copies of Leyline of the Void. But then we have bangers like that. Show me a counterspell. Alright, they showed me a counterspell. I'm not in a position to wait to play around days, though. I think that is actively bad. Alright. Yep, there's the Leyline of the Void draw that I was talking about. Wasteland is very actively good. And thank you, Leyline. Very cool. I think my opponent is wildly favored at this point of the game. Wow, that is amazingly only a 1/1 right now. A Reanimate. I will do that on a creature that kills my opponent in one shot. Second Daze. That is very savage. And that Daze is only good if my opponent also draws the Wasteland to take me off of that other mana source. Brutal. Oh no, they have a follow-up play. Yep. That's what I needed. So I snuff out the Murktide Regent. I get to stay alive, but this Dragon Rage Channeler probably will just kill me from 4 life. A Lightning Bolt will be lethal. I get another set of looks for it. We got a 3/3 that if I don't answer, I am dead. And that doesn't quite work the way that I want it to. I think we got a little bit unlucky in game 2 here, but I certainly punted game 1. I think my hand is just automatically a mulligan here with no mana sources. Grief, pitch, snuff out, reanimate it. Pitch 1 land. Yeah, this is perfectly reasonable as an opening hand. Ooh. Really wanted to draw another black card here so I could keep snuff out. But we are not in that timeline where I get to do that. We are playing against a red prison deck, in all likelihood, some sort of moonstompy nonsense. Is it reasonable for me to take my opponent's Goblin Rabble Master and reanimate that? Probably not against multiple copies of Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. I probably just take both Fables, let them play Rabble Master, and then Lightning Bolt it. Alright, that's the plan. Somewhat awkwardly, I think I am supposed to fetch a basic swamp with this. That way, if a Blood Moon hits, I am still able to cast my black spells. Right. Goodbye, Fable. Now, my opponent could take a turn off to cast their Trinisphere before their Goblin Rabble Master. And they very well might do so. They do. That'll slow me down. Do I want to attack my opponent for 3? I think I do, because they are not guaranteed to play Goblin Rabble Master on their next turn. If I know specifically that they are always playing Goblin Rabble Master, I could hold back the Grief as a blocker. I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep my aggression up. There is the expected Goblin Rabble Master. My opponent's waiting to pay costs on something, but their Trinisphere is going to get in the way, so they might have a Fury. And I'll just take my 1 from this token. It's not a big deal. My draws aren't the best here. I think I am going to stay in the beatdown role by attacking with Grief. I am going to Lightning Bolt Goblin Rabble Master, but I don't have to do so yet. I can do it when my opponent passes priority in their first main phase. See if they place something else that changes my mind about what I want to remove. Okay, it is the Fury that I called last turn. My opponent pitched a Magus of the Moon. I'm going to go see what my cat just knocked over. He just knocked his treat down the stairs. Alright, goodbye, Grief. I will fetch. I will get attacked by a 1/1. I will go to 12. If I shock myself later, I will be at 9. For Death Shadow purposes, I believe I do this. Get that Rabble Master out of the way. And then I can always just play this as a mountain. No attack with the Goblin token. That is a decision. I'm unfortunately flooded out here. Spirit Guide is fine. Yeah, so like, no attack last turn into attack this turn makes no real sense to me. I am not going to be fetching here. Hey, there we go. I have a Death Shadow. I can make this a 4/4 at instant speed, and a 6/6 at ever so slightly less than instant speed. Rabble Master is good. Those Goblin tokens have to attack. I think the Spirit Guide, well, Spirit Guide is their jump blocker for my Death Shadow. JK, I lied. Like their line. This game was not over. This game was absolutely not over. So I can't attack. I can't really attack on my turn, or I risk dying to this on the backswing. My opponent still has Den of the Bugbear. I have a dead card. Okay, with that draw, the game was probably over, but I don't like my opponent's concession there. I am interested in Fury and Chain Lightning. I will probably play Turok just as something that trades with Goblin Rabble Masters. I am not interested in Price of Progress here. Am I interested in Kroxa as an endgame 6/6? Marginally? But I think only marginally. I don't know that I need Street Wraiths in this matchup. I don't think I'm... Well, maybe I'm interested in Meltdown for Chalice of the Void. I do care about that card. I have 18, 19 1-drops after sideboarding. Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to play Meltdown. So Kroxa comes out for the first one. Then maybe I don't just play that as a 2/1, and I just play the Meltdowns. I have a higher red count for Fury, so I have a better chance of just Fury into Reanimate. This is acceptable. I am good against creatures. I am bad against Chalice of the Void. Going to go ahead and keep it. Oh. Opponent went hard with the anti-reanimate tech. Joke's on you, friend. I'm planning on reanimating your stuff in this matchup for the most part. Oh, great. A slow start from my opponent is fantastic for me. Oh? Imprinting a Fury. I think similarly to last game, I just always have to lead on basic Swamp, despite the fact that I do want to shock myself in this matchup early on. And we'll try to punch a hole in my opponent's hand. The high risk, high reward line is take Goblin Rabble Master this turn, and take Caves of Chaos Adventurer next turn. But if my opponent spikes one of their 8 soul lands, I'm in huge trouble for taking that line. So I think I just do take the Caves of Chaos Adventurer and respect the line that could brutally punish me for what I would otherwise do. Ooh, my opponent whiffs here. Oh, ho, ho, yeah. Yeah, this is gonna be a good turn. Blood Crypt. Shock myself. Thoughtseize. Target you. I take Rabble Master over War Boss. Reanimate. Target Caves of Chaos Adventurer. And that allows me to get land drop number 3. So that if my opponent drops a Trinisphere, I can just do, yeah. And this was the problem with my opponent's sideboarding in Leyline of the Void, right? Like, they Leyline of the Void, so I can't do the Grief Reanimate thing, but I still want to kill my opponent's creatures, and I still want to discard their creatures, so that this doesn't actually succeed in shutting off Reanimate as a card. Alright, I'll admit it, this deck did better than I was expecting. I was expecting a 2-3 finish with this deck, but we did end up positive here. So some cards did not pull their weight in this league. I'm not going to name names, but some cards were sideboarded out in every round. Okay, I'm going to name names. It's Kroxa. Kroxa and Price of Progress did not do work in this league. I understand having the Price of Progress in the deck in game 1, as it is something that can single-handedly steal a match on its own, but I think a lot of times it's going to end up forcing draws rather than wins. I am not sure, and this may sound surprising, I am not sure that I would remove the Kroxa from the deck list, despite the fact that I boarded it out in every round, though. It is a card that offers some game 1 inevitability, and it is both black and red, which does matter for some of these pitch elementals. I would be willing to explore other threats, though. It has to be either 1 or 2 mana, though. I don't think we can go up to 3 mana for something like Opposition Agent. But I would be pretty willing to, for example, just run Dragon Rage Channeler ×2 in the Kroxa and Price of Progress spots for game 1, and I think I would be pretty happy with that. That would keep my red count the same for Fury, which does definitely matter. Generally speaking, I liked the things that I had access to. It's possible I could have 4-1'd. I did punt a game 1 where I just put myself in lightning bolt range when I didn't need to, that I otherwise might have won. But I don't know that Delver is going to be a great matchup. You can play very large things that are difficult to deal with, but Murktide Regent does seem like a problem, and I only have 3 Pyroblasts that deal with that. Other than the Snuff Outs, which sometimes get a little bit dicey in the Delver matchup in terms of being able to cast it for free. About the only other thing that I might want in the 75 is maybe access to an Edict effect. The original version of this deck had, I think it's called Backlash. I can pull it up on screen. I have the technology. The original draft had Backlash specifically as a way to deal with a Merit Lodge. This is a little bit narrow. I think I'd be comfortable playing some Edicts. Plague Engineer was another thing that I considered in this deck list that I ultimately ended up cutting for other effects. But yeah, let me know down below what you thought of the league, what you think of the deck list, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. If you end up buying any cards, doing any pre-orders, remember, check out Cool Stuff Inc. ThrabenU is the promo code for 5% off your order. Have a great rest of the day. See ya!